an intermission in this best 3 out of 5 set match, and so we thought, why not? The ocean's not that close, but we'll get out to the beach anyway. Karch Kiraly very comfortable on the sand as well, as you all know.
Hello, I'm here with Coach Andrew, Coach Carissa, and student athlete Chelsea, who are going to help us talk about some of the differences and benefits of the indoor game and the beach game. First of all, benefits for beach players of playing plenty of indoor volleyball, which I advocate. Number one, a beach team only has one person, but when you play indoors, you've got to learn to deal with all kinds of disparate personalities. And I think it makes you a better teammate over the long course of your beach career because you're not always going to play with the same type of person. Number two, you only have on the beach one blocker and one defender. But indoors, you often have 2 blockers and 4 defenders. So you're forced to develop a much more wide-ranging offensive ability, hit with power, and if you can get it down against 6 players, then you have an easier time getting it down against 2. And then thirdly, the history has been that serving hasn't been as, I guess, emphasized a part of the game on the beach, and indoors, if you can find the smaller spaces and hit it with more precision, that's going to benefit your beach serving. Now, flip it. What are some of the benefits to indoor players for playing beach? There's some huge ones. Number one, with only 2 players out there, sometimes or often only one when you're on defense, you have to be much better at reading the game and making the ball come to you. If it doesn't, those rallies are going to end very quickly, very often. Number 2, you just have to develop an all-around skill set. Middles who come out and play on the sand might not necessarily get many setting chances. Well, they will on the sand, and that makes them a better all-around player. They have to execute all the skills. And then third, just your ability to make the play start out correctly by having a good first contact. And a good first contact, if I'm playing with Andrew, I don't want to put it right to him, I want to lead him somewhere, and that will help the play develop. So those are the skills, or those are some of the benefits, and now we'll take some time to show you. All right, first, reading ability. Chelsea, as is almost always the case in beach volleyball, is the lone defender. There's a blocker up at the net, but if she doesn't do a very good job reading, I've got a lot of court to hit at. Conversely, if she does really good job reading, she should be able to get her hands on the ball, her arms on the ball more often. So we'll show you a couple of those right now. So maybe she doesn't do such a good job reading. She's guessing more and not in a good breaking toward the cut. Not doing a good job of waiting and watching cues from me. Or she might be better. We'll see what happens here, and we're still ready. So that's what good reading ability would look like. Every player needs that indoors. Beach volleyball gives you great opportunities to execute skills that you might barely do indoors. For example, if Chelsea were a middle, she doesn't do much setting indoors, but she gets lots of chances on the beach. Here's what it would look like if she doesn't do it so well. If she gives me a lousy set like that, we don't get to do much with it. But as she develops her ability to set better as a middle, then we can run our offense from there, and I can get stuffed. We also want to develop a great first contact to help the play flow. So when the serve comes to Chelsea, she doesn't want to pass it right to Carissa where she's standing. She wants to lead her to help the play flow. So here comes the touch. It leads Carissa, who can make a great set, and then the offense develops accordingly.
Well, Karch, you combine beach volleyball and indoor volleyball probably better than anybody in the history of the sport. 144 beach championships, beach tournaments, 2 gold medals indoors, the first ever gold medal on the beach. Shall I go on? In other words, you think combining the 2 is pretty good for you?
I absolutely think that playing each made me better in the opposite version. And we have a player here with Catherine Plummer for Stanford who has spent a lot of time on the beach, and that helped her make the critical transition last year from opposite to outside hitter when Stanford switched its lineup.
And we'll see what happens in some critical decisions coming out of the locker room. Interesting matchup so far. One set apiece between Stanford and Washington. Back with a 3rd set from Palo Alto right after this.
Explorers. That's what we are every time we take pictures. At Looking Glass Photo, we offer all the latest gear and workshops that will have you discovering photography in ways you never thought possible. Your photographs make a lasting impression on the world. Let Looking Glass Photo make a lasting impression on you.
It's Mattress Firm's Fall Asleep Sale, and the holidays are just around the corner. Give yourself and your guests a gift. Buy one mattress and get one for your guest bedroom half off. Plus, get Hampton and Rhodes mattresses starting at $199.99. Only at Mattress Firm.
I look at my son working at Pogo Park, creating the beauty and finding the beauty in ourselves.
I was 12 years old when I first played at Pogo Park. Pogo Park changed the neighborhood. Now I'm helping build the next Pogo Park.
As the band plays on, now we'll play 2 out of 3. Washington and Stanford tied at 1 set apiece. Defense has been really important in this match, and Morgan Hens, the outstanding libero for Stanford. You young players out there, this is how you get the job done.
Yeah, and it starts with a balanced position, and then from there, rather than jumping in the air to play the high ball, hence turning and pursuing. That's a difficult skill for any defender to execute. She also is just working and improving constantly her eye work so she can anticipate where the hitter is going to hit the ball. 3 digs on 1 rally.
Stanford was able to get the point out of that from Fitzmaurice, but lost the second set 25-18 as we look at the numbers overall. Pretty close, and I would think that both coaches said, look, let's remember the good and forget the bad. Now that we're going to play 2 out of 3. Stanford was nearly perfect in the second set. Washington returned the favor in the second. But on the other hand, Washington and Stanford were very poor in their losing efforts in sets 1 and 2 respectively. Bailey Tanner with that heavily bandaged, still recovering pinky on the floor. And look at the difference in the numbers. Washington hit 317 in the second.
Yeah, and Stanford returning to its original starting lineup and its original rotation with Catherine Plummer right up at the net to start with. They want to get her more hitting opportunities.
Ball set well off the net and an unforced error. That delivered inaccurately by Tanner.
And this is the rotation for Washington that just bled huge amounts of points in the first set, essentially costing them that. They bled 12 points and lost by 9 points at 25-16. So they got to get out of this much sooner. There's a better pass and a better swing.
DeHogue tucking into the cross court. The ball dug, but over the sideline. Give number 12 the kill.
Yeah, and it starts with a good pass. A poor pass is very difficult for that left-hander to put away from the left side of the court.
Here's Tia Scambray, 6-foot senior out of Dana Point, California. Again, a starting outside hitter for almost all of her career, and then moved to the libero here. Cross body killed by Plummer, now in double figures with 10.
Yeah, Coach Keegan Cook gives Tia Scambray so much credit for doing whatever the team needed after playing outside hitter her whole career, willing to switch to libero, and then had to switch back after Courtney Schwann got injured with a foot issue, and so called right back into duty. It was like she didn't miss a beat.
Lauren Sanders able to thump that ball through the block, the outstanding 6'4" freshman. Hitting 332, and the #1 blocker in the Pac-12 conference is #1 as she gives way. to a defensive specialist to come on and serve. Unusual to see a freshman that high among the ranks in terms of blockers. This is Destiny July coming on now to serve and dialing up a winner for Washington. Been a very uneven match so far between two highly regarded programs and teams this year. Stanford won the NCAA championship last year, defeating Texas in the finals. Washington was eliminated in the regional final at Nebraska. Alade right off the noggin of July.
And that's a really nice set by Stanford setter Jenna Gray. She jumped hard, got a blocker to jump up with her, and getting Alade a one-on-one situation with that tight pass.
Jenna Gray, number 1, the 6'1" sophomore out of Shawnee, Kansas. Does she get enough credit, or is it just that, you know, the usual conversation surrounded by such incredible hitters?
I think she deserves more credit. She does a nice job distributing the offense. She gave so many good looks. Yeah, there it is. She jumped hard and got Courtney Schwann to jump with her, leaving the one-on-one situation. But Jenna Gray just did such a good job. It is very rare that a freshman setter leads her team, helps lead her team to an NCAA championship. She did it last year, and usually when you do that, you have tons of seniors around you. They had one with Inky. Everybody
a pretty good one, but
a very good one. But they had lots of youth, and she helped make that train go.
Yeah, I agree with you, Karch. I don't think she gets anywhere near the credit she deserves. People look around and they say, look, well, she's got Plummer, and she certainly does have that, as that ball is missed out of bounds. A rare hitting error by Alade. Got Moretta Lutz, Plummer, as we mentioned, Fitzmaurice, among others, but she is really a top-notch setter.
Even though she'll make mistakes, and that last one was a mistake. You can see how high Alade jumps, and that ball was set closer to her armpit. Got to make her reach so that she can take the block completely out of play.
Washington out to a quick start. That service error goes long as Keefe will come back on, replacing McClure in the front court. So now Kevin Hambly is sort of platooning front court, back court. 15 subs in intercollegiate volleyball on the women's side. That's a lot of moving parts, and the libero does not count as a substitution. Well, I like that pass by McPherson, but Finau is called for the double contact.
You have to be careful because Finau isn't quite as tall a player, so you can't put the ball as close to the net as you might for Bailey Tanner. Bailey at 6'1", Finau at 5'8".
Now once again, back to the conversation and all the decisions that are going to have to be made by shank pass there by Schwann down the sideline by Keegan Cook. First of all, get everybody healthy. That's priority number 1, and then secondarily, 5'1", 6'2". Who are my starters? Who's my opposite? A lot of questions to be answered for Washington over the last 3 weeks of conference play. Tough serve again. Free ball coming for Stanford. Moretta Lutz has been quiet so far. Washington doing a good job on the 6'8" Lutz. Plummer out of the back row. A beautiful delivery by Gray.
And last year for Courtney Schwann, that roll shot probably would have gone to the floor, but this time Stanford comes up with it and ends up turning the point.
4-0 run here for Stanford to overtake Washington, now leading 7-6. Early passing problems, the story in the opening set for Washington. They've resurfaced a little bit. Good save by Alade. Boy, that ball passed 12 feet off the net.
You are right. Got to control that free ball much better.
And McPherson running out of real estate. An important kill off the left side from Michaela Keefe, the 6'2" redshirt freshman out of Pacific Palisades. She and her twin sister Caitlin, of course, the children of Adam Keefe, member of the Stanford Hall of Fame, along with Kristen Klein, a 4-time All-American here at Stanford, both of them in the Stanford Hall of Fame. Tough serve off the top of the tape, and an ace here for Plummer. These are the 2 best serving teams in the Pac-12 conference, and right now Plummer king this comeback in the 3rd for Stanford.
In the heart of old Los Angeles, life has a flavor all its own. This is where El Pollo Loco first began over 30 years ago, serving authentic Mexican fire-grilled chicken. The same chicken that still goes into everything we do. El Pollo Loco, fresh from the grill.
Coming up Saturday, we'll have another big one in the Big Ten with college football playoff implications. Number 19, Michigan, takes on Heisman hopeful Saquon Barkley, and number 2, Penn State at Beaver Stadium, which will be rocking in a whiteout. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on ABC. That's this Saturday. Number 19, Michigan, and number 2, Penn State. Back with USA national team head coach Karch Kiraly. I'm Paul Sunderland. Stanford went on a 7-0 run to break open the opening set. Timeout called by Washington, trying to stem the tide on a 6-0 Cardinal run. Dug into the cross court, up into the scoreboard, and if the ball passes over the net, it's a violation, and it will be Washington volleyball.
Knocked out some confetti.
Wonder how long.
Maybe it's either a long time ago or they're pre-saving it for a possible regional hosting here. And the players are trying to grab the confetti that's coming down.
I'm trying to think what that might have been. Tara Vanderveer's won a lot of big basketball games here, and also she had, I think, her 1,000th win last year, so that might have been the case.
And a big new contract, just done in July, but announced last week.
Over the sideline and out of bounds. Are you surprised? These are 2 elite teams. Okay, Washington has struggled with some injuries, but Stanford certainly at 15-2, 8-0 in conference. That this match is so streaky so far.
Neither team really, especially Stanford, at the number 2 ranked team in the country, not playing with the consistency that you would expect, and the team that started the Pac-12 8-0 on a 10-match winning streak.
Hazelwood with yet another stuffed block. We'll give you those blocking numbers. The 2 best blocking teams in the conference. Washington now with 7, Stanford with 6. Working short on Hintz. They've gone away from Plummer. Dug by McPherson. And a slam dunk down the sideline by number 17, Moretta Lutz. 6-foot redshirt senior out of Houston, Texas. 3rd-team All-American last year. Mentioned she was from Houston. Her family was able to come out unscathed by the hurricane that deluged the Houston area. But our thoughts still go out. I mean, there have been so many things happening with hurricanes and the fires up here in Northern California to keep track of. But don't forget, it was Houston that had something like 48 inches of rain over a very concentrated period of time. So let's keep them in our thoughts as well, and the folks in Puerto Rico that are going through a really tough time. Good block on the outside by Lutz. That slow developing, that slick out of the middle. Marion Hazelwood, who played 3 years at Oklahoma, and Keegan Cook saying it took Hazelwood a little while to figure out how to play at this different tempo.
Yeah, she transferred from Oklahoma, where most teams run a faster tempo set to a middle. And so it's taken her a little time to adjust that. Sometimes she finds herself too early.
Washington doing a pretty good job of serving strategically here, working some short serves. They go on a streak of their own, and we're tied at 11.
We didn't see that in either of the first 2 sets. Both teams using that strategic serve and trying to catch passers off guard.
Good turn, wrist away by Chrissy Jones, number 28. Had a career high 24 kills in the 5-set loss up at Seattle last year. Working Lutz here, hammers that ball right on the 10-foot line. Moretta Lutz hit 333 on the year. She'll give way to Kate Formico.
And that's one thing that Stanford's been concentrating on this season, is trying to get Morella's swings not just when they receive serve and get that first offensive set coming at them, but getting her more swings in transition.
Oh, what a stuff by #1 Sanders up against Plummer.
Yeah, Stanford was not left with many options. They really only could set backcourt to her. Washington doing a nice job of setting up in the proper spot. Got to take her more cross court, which they did there. Leave her some line to hit.
Tia Scambray, #20 on the outside, also getting a big piece of that stuff block is Bailey Tanner. Comes on to serve, trying to work flat. What's your serving philosophy when you coach the national team?
Well, we've found that the most effective serve in international volleyball is what we call a jump float. Getting your body in the air with a jump and hitting a serve that has very little spin or no spin on it. A serve much like this. Jump, hit it with very little spin, and it gets more of a knuckleball action on it. That tends to be more effective, but for the men internationally, it's more of a jump spin. They throw it up and attack it from behind the service line.
Net violation called against Adriana Fitzmaurice and Stanford. Tied at 13 here in the third. Tied at 1 set apiece. Oh, nice reaction on the block. #12 DeHogue, also out of the middle with Sanders, #1 in black.
And that's certainly, we've talked about some of the height that Stanford has. That's no slouch of a block for Washington either. Traditionally a very strong blocking team.
Sanders at 6'4", as is DeHogue. Washington doing a good job here of controlling the ball. DeHogue transition swing off the edge of the block and out of bounds. DeHogue, out of Ontario, California, had to wait her turn to get on the floor for the University of Washington. More on that in a moment. Timeout called by Stanford, and the streaks continue. Stanford went on a 6-0 run to take early control, 9-6, and now Washington has responded on top 15-13. Carly DeHogue, as mentioned, the 6'4" senior, playing in one of the two opposite positions, had to wait her turn and then suffered a severe injury and missed a full 10 months. And Keegan Cook told us he wasn't sure if she was going to come back to volleyball. Not only has she come back, but she's playing exceptionally well, averaging 3 kills per set and hit .324 now in her senior year.
Yeah, 2 major injuries. First day of practice in her first year. That forced her to take a redshirt year, and then that microfracture surgery. But some people could have shut it down, given up on their career, but she kept with it and then made the most of her opportunity earlier this season. Proved herself to be one of their best, if not best, opposite hitters in their offense.
Yeah, Keegan Cook had to sort of give us a wry laugh. He said everybody was looking at my roster, as was I, and going, wow, you're so deep, you're too deep at every position. And then the injuries started to pile up. And now again, not to belabor the point, but Keegan Cook and Washington have so many questions to answer over the final month of the season. And the first one is, when and if will we be 100% healthy? Bailey Tanner playing with that surgically reconstructed pinky finger on her right hand. And Chrissy Jones still not back to 100%. And you mentioned Courtney Schwann had some issues as well with a foot sprain. It's always the unexpected when you're coaching, isn't it, Karch? You just never know what's going to happen.
You make a plan, and then it doesn't have much effect. So you got to make plan B, C, D, E, and F.
There's DeHogue again, ripping into the cross court off of Formico.
And it makes sense that some of Bailey Tanner's best sets tonight are behind her to DeHogue, because it doesn't have to travel as far. She doesn't have to, I guess, struggle with that broken finger and pushing it long distances. So if I were her, I'd be leaning that way. And if I were Stanford, that block I would have leaning that way also.
Washington doing a much better job of keying in now on Plummer. Good swing in transition, high over the top of the block.
And that's one thing Coach Cook mentioned, is he wants Courtney Schwann to hit the ball higher, especially the high line shot, but instead of hitting low into the block, mixing that as a stronger part of her repertoire this year.
Oh, stuff block again. Sanders with the hoe.
Wow, DeHogue at 6'4". Sanders at 6'4", putting up a great block.
6-0 run for Washington, matching the earlier 6-0 run for Stanford. Very streaky for two high caliber teams. Washington with a big lead here, and they just extended that. And DeHogue crack-a-lacka into the cross court. Timeout called by Stanford, and boy, do they ever need it. And Stanford, we've talked about these teams sort of being in different paths with respect to the second half of conference play. And for the Stanford Cardinal, ranked number 2, 7 in the RPI, but they cannot stumble because you lose to a team in the Pac-12 conference. The next highest ranked team, I think, is Utah at number 12. So if you drop a match, you could fall out of one of those top 4 seeds. A lot of pressure each and every night out.
Absolutely, and Stanford has put itself in a really good position to try to attempt to not only win the conference, but become that high seed and maybe get to host, which they did not get to do last year. With the new system of the highest remaining 4 seeds getting, or the highest remaining seed in each regional quarter of the bracket getting the opportunity to host the regionals.
The Pac-12 along with the Big Ten, of course, the 2 power conferences in women's college volleyball. There you see Stanford, Utah having a wonderful season. USC has got a lot of weapons. Don't anybody go to sleep on USC. Mick Haley, the longtime head coach there, won a national championship at Texas to start things off so many years ago. But they are very, very talented. UCLA there as well, along with Oregon. We saw Oregon. They're trying to get healthy in their own right. Here is Tia Scambray. Ripped into the deep cross court once again. How has Washington done a better job on Plummer so far here in the third as she takes a deep breath?
Well, it starts with a very good serve, and they only have 2 hitters up at the net in that last rotation. They got Adriana Fitzmaurice and then Catherine Plummer. And if they get a poor pass, then Plummer is the only option.
That ball ripped, but on the crossbody over the sideline by Sanders. There is the challenge system in effect for touch, ball in or out, foot fault, and a net violation as well. So this is a touch or no touch. Each team gets 3 challenges per match. Very different from the international situation. So right now Washington is challenging whether or not that ball out of the middle by Lauren Sanders was touched by a blocker for Stanford.
And usually the person who's got the best angle and the best ears, maybe sometimes you only hear it instead of see it, is the hitter herself. But not only the hitter, but everybody on the Washington team thought for sure that was a touch.
Well, they're slow developing. That is a quick set.
Yep.
In Washington's offense, and look at Stanford, 3 blockers up on that.
Yep.
That slick or slow quick, as we've decided to add it to the nomenclature. If there's a touch at all, of course, it's on Jenna Gray, number 1. On the left-hand side of your screen, and volleyball players notorious liars.
Yeah, you can see her. If she did touch it, she's putting on a good acting job. No, 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 no touch. And she's got teammates helping her out, helping the referee make that call, or convincing them that there was no touch.
The initial ruling, it was no touch, and for it to be overturned, it has to be irrefutable. And sometimes touches are very, very difficult. At the Olympic Games, all of the cameras, there are 18 dedicated cameras in the replay system internationally, and they're all super slow motion and high def. College volleyball not quite to that level yet, but working towards it. I like that they've incorporated the challenge system. You got to get it right. And here's the call. Ball is out of bounds, so the call will stand, and it'll be Stanford's point, still with possession, trailing Washington 19-15.
Yeah. I did not see irrefutable evidence on that. Not with the evidence presented.
There is Fitzmaurice, a 6'6" sophomore out of Overland Park, Kansas. Washington is passing the ball so much better here, Karch. They're a pretty well-functioning offensive team right now.
And you saw that faster tempo set to Courtney Schwann. I think that's going to give her some more daylight to hit at. If they can pass better like that, I like them running very fast to their left side. No time for Alade to get out there as a blocker.
There is July coming on to serve. They've gone away from Plummer as far as a serving target, but she is certainly going to be a target for Jenna Gray to deliver the ball.
And that's another example of Stanford not making a very good pass, so they all of a sudden their offense breaks down and Plummer is the only option. Now they get setter Jenna Gray in the backcourt, and now Stanford is back to having 3 hitters up in the front since Moretta Lutz has come back onto the court.
Temi Alade, the middle blocker for Stanford, putting up some nice numbers, but most of the damage coming early, and there's another very, very quick set to the outside to Courtney Schwann.
And she's doing the proper thing. She's just attacking the space between the blockers, and it goes between them and the net. I like Washington pushing that tempo to help Courtney's job, help Courtney Schwann make her job easier.
One more thought on Courtney Schwann after this important point outside to Plummer again, high up into the block. Blocking and passing much better for Washington. Schwann ripping inside, ball is dug, comes over the net. And so that is a violation back to Schwann. Pretty good out-of-system swing there, but would you describe her as a very, very potent in-system left side?
I'd say definitely better in-system than out, and Coach Cook talked about it when they had to switch Tia Scambraith away from libero and into the outside hitter position. It means she's not passing the ball as well, and their passing numbers are way down because of that, having to make that switch.
Alade with her first opportunity. Mentioned that Temi Alade, number 6 in pink for Stanford, had put up some good numbers not only on the season but tonight, 7 of 9 attacking, but that's her first attempt in quite some time, to your point about Stanford's receiving falling off.
Yeah.
Here is Plummer, already with an ace on the night.
Now this is more of an out-of-system play, and Schwann resorts to her good roll shot, which Stanford is prepared for.
Washington gets a free ball out of it against the flow, dug into the cross court by Gray. McClure has been very quiet so far on the night after a good weekend in Los Angeles. Ball was dug right to the net, but Finau couldn't track it down. Washington still leading by 4, 22-18 here in the third, tied at 1 set apiece.
And McClure, that's one of the reasons Stanford's been struggling, hitting negative on the evening, but taking a nice deep corner swing on that.
Where do you go here to Lutz? No, outside to McClure. Schwann, yell and go. She wants it quickly, and Alade and Lutz were there to close the door, and maybe a timeout now for Washington. Yep, timeout called by the Washington Huskies. Tenth stuff block for Washington, and now the 8th, I should say, for Stanford.
And you could see Alade was leaning over that way, cheating over that way, actually moved. So a fast set at that point isn't going to slow Alade down and make her job harder, because there's no quick hitter to worry about in the middle of the court.
Washington still leading 22-19. Washington, which has been the absolute definition of consistency over the last several years. Their 11th different starting lineup so far on the season, and this their 20th match because of a plethora of injuries. Stanford at 15-2, the only undefeated team in conference. Utah in second.
All these side-out numbers are abysmal.
Oh, my gosh.
Washington is winning this with only a 47%. Stanford at 40 must be one of the lowest on the season. Side-out percentage is when the other team is serving. What percentage of the time does our team win that play? When you're playing well, like Stanford in that first one, siding out at 81%. This time down to half that in this third set.
Mentioned that these are the top 2 serving teams in the conference, so they work hard to get one another off the net, out of system. And here is Plummer number 2 in pink, going back to serve with Washington leading by 3.
And remember, she went on a nice serving streak earlier in this very set, but can't on that. Serving in the net.
At 6'6", with the jump float, she's serving down into the court. She is really angry with herself for missing that serve, and Washington now just 2 points away. Stanford ranked number 2 in the coaches poll, number 7 in the RPI. They cannot afford to slip those 4 top seeds. Alade with the rip. It's a little bit like all the pressure in college football. Mentioned that Clemson lost last week, the defending national champion. Everybody wants to get in the top 4, obviously, to play for the national title in football. But in college volleyball last year, with the new regional seeding, it is so vitally important. Stanford was the only team to go on the road and win at Wisconsin. Otherwise, all the home teams won. Schwann ripping Morgan Hentz again. But that ball missed out of bounds by McClure.
What a great up by Hentz. McClure missing on the spin to try to get that into the corner. Now Washington a set point, 24-20.
What a turnaround. Stanford went on a 6-0 run to lead 9-6. Washington came right back and went on a 6-0 run of their own. Outside the Morello-Ups. Just quickly, do you like the new seeding system?
I do. I thought it made for really compelling atmosphere. It was electric in all 4 of those venues. So I know it's tougher if you're not the host and you're playing in that kind of environment, but that's also a lot of fun. Most of these players are thinking, I want to be in a packed house, whether it's for us or against us.
Set point again. Kate Formico back at the line. 3 more set points for Washington to take the 2-1 advantage.
Certainly one of the challenges was all 4 of those regionals being in the same time zone. Be nice to get somebody out west hosting one of those. Another nice up by Hentz.
That ball over the sideline and will change sides. Washington out on the road in Palo Alto, where they have lost 8 straight, trying to pull off what would be, given the circumstances, a big upset. 2 longtime rivals in the Pac-12 conference. Washington just 1 set away from the upset in Palo Alto.
Fear is waiting for you.
And Sony had always wanted to be a baseball player, and then he came here and found that he loved science.
I always thought baseball was going to be my life. I have learned so many things. I want to be a research chemist.
At the end of the day, we feel like we've really accomplished something.
Take advantage of exceptional lease and finance offers today.
Inspired by our favorite street vendors, El Pollo Loco's new chicken and street corn bowl is here. Try it and all of our new signature bowls today, fresh from the grill.
You're watching the Pac-12 on ESPN as we come to you live once again from Maples Pavilion, the beautiful campus of Stanford University. Stanford, the defending NCAA champions. Washington won in 2005, but let's remind, speaking of five, the last five champions, it was Texas over Oregon in 2012. Penn State, what a run they went on. And then Penn State again in 2014, 2015. It was the Nebraska Cornhuskers at home in Omaha. And then it was the Stanford Cardinal last year over the University of Texas. And some important dates to remember coming up starting on November 1st on ESPNU, where you can watch number 5 Texas taking on Kansas State. The selection committee will put out its top 10. Then the selection special will be on November 26th as the bracket is released, the first and second round, the regionals and the national semifinals and finals this year in Kansas City. The top 10 again, Stanford currently ranked at number 2, but nobody can afford to slip. Texas, after Florida's loss at home to Kentucky, falls from number 1 to number 3. What's going to happen over the last month of the season, not only in the Pac-12 conference with Stanford, maybe the only team in the Pac-12 that has a chance for a top 4 seed, but then in the Big Ten, there are 4 teams that legitimately could claim, with Penn State, Nebraska, Minnesota, maybe 3 teams. If I'm forgetting one, you'll tell me. Wisconsin,
Yep.
Although they were at 2-4 and they had a big win over Nebraska at home, so a lot still to be decided.
And Michigan State's had some huge wins. They're a very dangerous team. We were talking about it a little before the show. It's a little like old ACC basketball, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 beating up on each other. But it seems to prepare them well because those two conferences have been winning so often in the last 10 years.
Just underway here in the 4th set. That ball turned out of bounds by DeHogue. And we were talking about it before the match, Karch. Is it better to battle in the Big Ten or the Pac-12 with all of these ranked teams night in, night out? Or is it better to beat Florida or Kentucky or Kansas or Texas in the in the Big 12 or in the SEC respectively?
And I think it's better if you can stay healthy, because those matches are very challenging when you play ranked team after ranked team. But I think it prepares those teams better for a run through the NCAA tournament.
Alade with a nice block out of the middle. Number 6 in pink for Stanford with some help from Catherine Plummer.
At the same time, Texas making, what, 6 NCAA semifinals in a row. That isn't bad preparation either.
Right. Yeah, not bad. It's a pretty good run, and Texas is loaded once again. It's this last month of conference play is going to be so interesting. Texas was able to survive in 5 sets, 18-16 in the 5th to Kansas.
Yeah. And
the Big Ten is just remarkable each and every night out.
That's one of those rotations. Stanford just got a freebie there, but that's one of the rotations that Stanford's actually been having some trouble on offense. Tia Scambray just missing that serve long, letting him off the hook.
Both teams really emphasize serving an awful lot each and every day in practice to put pressure on your opponent. Here's Jenna Gray. Thanks for joining us.
Anytime you see the setter touch it with her forearms, that's a chance to score, and Stanford let that chance slip away.
DeHogue nicely done on the wrist away. Kevin Hambley looking over and wondering where his block was in that situation.
Yep, that ball was inside, and the block traveled too far. Left her tons of angle to attack at.
Here is July on to serve, just underway here in the 4th set. Washington looking for the upset, and it would be that, particularly with the scenario of all the injuries. Alade is stuffed out of the middle, and a good start here for Washington, now tied with Stanford at 3 apiece. Left side to Plummer, ripping inside, registers her 14th kill, and another very busy night. 80-plus swings in 8 sets in Los Angeles last week as Plummer and Stanford beat both USC and UCLA, and already she's taken 35 swings so far on the night.
Yeah, Coach Hambley said we don't want to rely on her as much as we've had to at times. Just to have somebody, a hitter of that capacity, fresh enough to be to help them make a strong run in the NCAA tournament.
Is the answer for Stanford just to be in system a lot more so they can spread the wealth?
Yep, they got to pass better so they can set quick hitters like Alade, who's hitting over 400 on the season.
That serve is missed by Finau. Look back at the rankings. In the Big Ten, Penn State ranked #1, Minnesota is #5, Nebraska is #7. All the legitimate shots to be a top 4 seed come tournament time, I think. Don't think Michigan State or Wisconsin can get back in there.
That was an easy up for Jenna Gray. She put it far too deep in the court.
Really good decision that time by Megan McClure, who struggled early, as you pointed out, Karch. Hitting negative, but had been playing with a lot of confidence over the last 3 weeks. Stanford on a 10-match winning streak, perfect 8-0 in conference. McPherson has done a nice job for Washington as this match has gone along, passing the ball. Little pokey. You didn't see our beach clinic in between the second and third sets put on. And I shortchanged you, Karch. I should know this by now. I said you won 144 beach tournaments all time. I'm so sorry. It was 140.
Who's counting? Who's counting?
It's a big number.
It is.
Good crack-a-lack off the right side by Moretta Lutz, who's been fairly quiet so far on the night. Lutz, 8 kills now on 18 swings, but with 5 errors, hitting well below her season average as she is replaced by Formico.
Yep, and that's really important for Stanford, because if she's not having a good evening, the team, the opponents don't have to focus on her as much, and it doesn't stretch the defense, the 3 blockers at the net out.
Nice rip on the wrist away by Tia Scambray. Back to the national rankings, and you look at it, Stanford appears to be the only team in the Pac-12 conference that has a shot at a top 4 seed. Would you agree with that, Karch?
I would agree. If they drop this one, that could change, because there's a logjam of teams waiting to overtake them.
And Florida, who suffered their first loss of the season at home. More on that in just a moment. But the eventual selection and seedings in the national tournament are so important. Chrissy Jones with a kill. Florida loses at home to Kentucky. They play one more time in Lexington. And I'll tell you what, Kentucky is really, really good. Don't go to sleep on them as far as being a top 4 seed as well. If they can sweep Florida, they've got a really strong resume.
And remember, Stanford's only 7 in the RPI right now. This loss could drop them significantly, and that's a big factor in the NCAA. Ooh, not a good contact there. Big factor in the NCAA selection committee decision.
Good block out of the middle, one-on-one by Lauren Sanders. And just to finish the thought on Kentucky, they're #3 in the RPI.
Exactly. So they got a great shot if they can notch another win in Florida and keep winning in the SEC.
3-0 run here for Washington. Streaky match as the Huskies have now taken the advantage 8-7. This would be a big upset. Plummer out of the back row with only 1 blocker up. That's not enough hands in front of her, is it, Karch?
No. And there's enough time to get in front of it. There was no hitter on Stanford's right side to worry about.
Is that part of the college game in the sense that with 15 substitutions, you have so many DSs, you don't see a lot of back row attacking?
That's certainly part of it. They want it. They're going for passing and defense for some of those.
Oh, Plummer. Heavy crack and right back at you, and then off of Chrissy Jones and out of bounds. Plummer now with her 16th kill.
Most of good defense is getting hit by the ball, and McPherson got hit by the ball.
There's a difference between digging the ball and avoiding shrapnel.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody's got to keep that ball alive. Jade Finau, the setter, and a little bit of confusion there with Tia Scambray.
Yeah, we talk about it often in our gym. An early decision is a good decision, and Scambray and Finau couldn't really decide who should play that. It would have been a good chance for, or a good decision for Scambray to jump in.
Stuck block by Fitzmaurice with some help from Gray on the outside. And once again, first it was Washington 3-0 run. And now Stanford streaking as well, and a timeout called by the Huskies with Stanford back on top 11-8. You're watching the Pac-12 on ESPN.
It's Mattress Firm's Fall Asleep Sale, and the holidays are just around the corner. Give yourself and your guests a gift. Buy one mattress and get one for your guest bedroom half off. Plus, get Hampton and Rhodes mattresses starting at $199.99. Only at Mattress Firm.
Redskins, Eagles, Monday, 8:15 Eastern on ESPN.
Welcome back live once again to Maples Pavilion, Stanford University. Tonight, the reigning NCAA champions and second-ranked Stanford Cardinal taking on number 14 Washington, and the Huskies at only 5-3 in conference, coming off a split last week at home, beating Oregon 15-13, if I'm correct, in the fifth set, and then losing to Oregon State. They've had a plethora of injuries, but Washington has been really solid behind Courtney Schwann, the reigning Pac-12 Player of the Year. Scambray again. That ball is dug, and Washington is saying that it glanced off the scoreboard. It would have been their ball, but play on, no whistle.
Nice up by Finau.
Another tough chance, but ripped inside. What a good swing by Catherine Plummer.
Did you see it hit?
I did not.
I did not either.
I did not see it hit. Courtney Schwann thought it did. So did Chrissy Jones.
And so did Keegan Cook, as he's having a discussion over there.
And it is not reviewable. That is not one of the areas that can be reviewed. Oh, and Keegan Cook got a yellow card. Wow, I didn't
really see him.
Well, I didn't think that his reaction was at all over the top or deserving of a yellow card. That's a very short leash.
That's a good serve.
Yeah, McClure with a very, very good flat. Oh, what a dig by Hentz again. You've said it a number of times, Karch, but expand on what you mean by the way she sees the game. You've mentioned it with respect to blockers and certainly Morgan Hentz.
Yeah, and when you're looking at the hitter for a long time, watch her jump into that space left between blockers. When you're looking at the hitter for a long time, you get these cues as to where the hitter's going to go. You also study a lot of video. You know their favorite shots, both hard driven and off speed, and that sets you up to put you can't when a ball's hit that hard, you can't move very far. You have to position yourself properly to begin with.
Morgan,
she's doing a good job of that.
Morgan Hentz, 630 digs last year as a freshman, set a new single season record at Stanford. Her digging numbers are way down because nobody's sitting anywhere near her. She's having to run all over the place to get her hands on a defensive chance. Stanford in system, delivering the ball nicely to Fitzmaurice on the slide.
Yeah, I think Coach Hambley said that she only got 6 chances to dig in that one match against Arizona. Everybody's just trying to hit away from her. Less so Washington tonight, giving her some defensive opportunities.
3 blockers up on that very slow developing quick set, if you will. It's like, it's oxymoronic, you know, it's a slick, it's a slow quick.
And that extra hang time means great wing blocker help from Jenna Gray on the right, Catherine Plummer on the left.
Sydney Wilson on to serve, making a rare, oh, what another block. 6'6". Plummer just absolutely wrapping her hands around this one.
And that ball was just set way too close for a blocker of the caliber and height of Catherine Plummer.
Stanford streaking again. That ball set a little bit too low. Off speed from Plummer.
Uh-oh, over.
That ball mishandled. Bailey Tanner digging the ball down the line with that surgically repaired pinky. Pretty good first contact, but then it got away from Washington, and now Stanford continues to streak on top now 16-9. Another 4-0 run in what has been a very streaky match between these two highly ranked teams. We got a timeout called by the Washington Huskies. Stanford leading 16-9. College football coming up, fresh off their big upset of Clemson. Syracuse squares off against the only undefeated team left in the ACC, number 8 Miami. That's Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, also on the ESPN app, believe it or not. First meeting between the Orange and the Canes. A lot of orange involved in that one. The Orange Bowl all the way back in 2003, and the last time Syracuse beat Miami was in 1998 with the great Donovan McNabb leading the way.
Well, looking at Stanford's schedule, if they can force this to go to the 5th, they've only played 2 5-set matches, losing 15-11 to Penn State and then beating Colorado 15-12. So the longer this match goes on, the more swings Catherine Plummer has to take. We'll see if she's in the kind of shape where she can finish strong and not run out of gas.
Well, and again, I spoke with Kevin Hambly, the first-year head coach for Stanford, and I just said, look, there's some conversation out there that Catherine Plummer had been a little bit under the weather, and he said, yeah, she's been battling a virus and still carrying a very, very heavy load. Plummer so far on the night, let's give you her line. 17 kills on 41 swings, hitting just under 300 in terms of efficiency. Whoa, shot. Courtney Schwann, her signature look, this time out of the back row.
And she picked the right time to do it. No Morgan Hintz on the court. That's going to be a better read for Hintz and a tougher read for the other Stanford defenders.
Good pass by Plummer on a tough chance out of the back row to Moretta Lutz, number 17. Talked about the schedule for Stanford and Catherine Plummer having to recover. They do have a day off tomorrow before getting Washington State on Saturday, so that will be an important rest opportunity.
But you mentioned 41 swings, double the next players. You have 18 for Lutz, 17 for Fitzmaurice. Got to get more even distribution.
Well, and if you're the Stanford Cardinal, again, you're ranked number 2, you're number 7 in the RPI, but you have to keep winning because you want to play in Maples Pavilion come tournament time.
And part of that is just saving yourself the travel, too. But it's not impossible. Stanford was the one team to do it, to win in that great environment in Wisconsin last year.
Well, weren't you telling me about a conversation that you had with, there she is right there, number 17, just going out of the picture, Moretta Lutz. So I wouldn't mind going on the road. That was so great at Wisconsin. Yeah. There were like 8,000-10,000 people there. It was so much fun. And you win 15-13 in the 5th. What if you lost 15-13 and didn't make the national semis? I don't think you'd feel the same way.
But I agree with her. There's no better environment than to play in front of 7,000 in Wisconsin, 6-something in Minnesota, 4-something at Gregory Gym in Texas, and a full house 9,000 plus in Nebraska. Those were all great. That was a new format, and for the fans and for television, it was those were phenomenal atmospheres to play in.
Catherine Plummer not serving very effectively. She does have a service winner and put on some pressure, but too many errors. Pretty even in that category. 7 service errors for Washington, 8 for Stanford. But a very unusual match. I mean, none of the sets have been close. Little confusion, given a free ball here to Washington. Tip over the top. And off speed, but just out of bounds by Moretta Lutz.
That set is what Stanford needs more of. They need Lutz to hit in transition when they get the ball up off an attack from Washington, but she got very little approach on that and hit it right out of bounds.
She had a good match against USC, a 3-1 win last Sunday in Los Angeles. Tipping out of the back row. That covered by Jones. And Olade in transition. Good swing by number 6. She is a terminal attacker.
And having a very good evening. They need to get her the ball and take a little pressure off the pins, especially Catherine Plummer.
Olade 10 of 13, hitting .615. Number 1 in the conference in terms of efficiency at .401. Outside to Schwann, set a little bit too low. Lutz right on top, got hung up on the tape. Good first contact. And McClure is rejected. Block on the outside by number 28, Chrissy Jones.
That's certainly been tougher for Stanford. McClure on the year hitting close to 200, but tonight hitting negative.
13th stuff block now for Washington.
Wow, what a set by Jenna Gray. That was not easy. The ball was so close to the net. She had to turn sideways. Gave Moretta Lutz a great look.
Moretta Lutz now in double figures, 10 of 22, but mixed in with 6 errors, not hitting the kind of efficiency that she has on the season. Season numbers 333 so far on the night after that kill at 182. Here is Kate Formico, comes from a very distinguished volleyball family. One of her cousins, Taylor, is an assistant coach for Kevin Hamblin. McClure ripping inside. Nice dig into the cross court by Schwann. And then Chrissy Jones answers as well. On the other side, DeHogue leading the way with 13 kills. Courtney Schwann has 9. Chrissy Jones just with her 8th, and Lauren Sanders, the outstanding freshman middle blocker, with half a dozen. Here is McPherson. Plummer out of the back row, legally up into the scoreboard. Plummer again out of the back row. And that's going to be a double contact. That called against Finau. We talked a lot about Bailey Tanner, but remember, Finau also has had a dislocated finger, little pinky finger on her right hand as well. So still dealing with that.
You could see the tape on there. She was not in a position to play when Bailey Tanner originally got hurt against USC.
Stanford now with a comfortable 7-point lead. Dug by Hentz. Smart shot by Plummer off the top of the block, trying to get ahead in this point. And even better, Tia Scambray, number 20, with a kill off the left side.
What a nice play by Washington, starting with McPherson, just putting a fist up there. Finau coming all the way across the court to put a very hittable ball up for Scambray.
Bailey Tanner back on, the 6'1" senior out of San Clemente. Second team All-American last year, and dials up the ace. And Megan McClure continues to struggle, not only attacking on the left side, but also receiving as well, Karch.
And one of the reasons she's on the court is not so much for her attacking, but for her ball control and for her ability to pass.
Really good play by Formico there, stepping in front of McClure and getting Stanford out of that rotation.
Yeah, starts with a great first contact. And Formico doing what we call diming, putting the ball right on the dime, and wow, Fitzmaurice unleashing on that.
Focusing on the perfect pass, but Fitzmaurice, crack-a-lacka, that was perfect. Stanford 2 points away from evening this match. And off the top of the block, the linesman called a touch. Well, the linesman called a touch, but the first referee is going to wave it off. And I think if the score was a little tighter, Kevin Hamblin might challenge this.
Hard to tell on that one.
No, can't tell. Here.
But I also didn't see the Stanford players arguing it too much. Oh, Jenna Gray might have gotten the pancake hand under that.
A little bit of an early whistle there, and now Kevin Hambley wasn't going to challenge on the last touch, no touch, but he will call a timeout here. Stanford still on top, 23-19. Stanford ranked number 2, 15-2 overall. Washington at number 14, 15-4, 5-3 in conference. Stanford a perfect 8-0. Stanford won the opening set 25-16. Washington came back to easily take the second. Washington, excuse me, won the third. There's a look back. The linesman was pretty definitive. If you can keep it going, maybe we can get the linesman's call.
The thing is, I saw very little argument from any of the Stanford players. We saw a different play earlier where all the players on the hitters team said, oh, Washington said for sure that was a touch. So I don't think that was actually a touch. And an indication of Plummer maybe running, getting a little low on the tank, because when you hit a ball with backspin, that's not your normal contact, your normal jump height.
Catherine Plummer plays such a big load. We were talking about it before the match, Karch. Just a sophomore. Is she one of the best all-around players you've seen in college volleyball at this stage of her career?
For sure, and it was really impressive last year to make the switch midstream, mid-match. They switched her to outside and found a lineup that worked better. Got to be impressed with her ability to hold up and serve receive. That one not so great, but generally doing a good enough job for Stanford to run its offense.
Oh, poor second contact there. Washington should have got a swing out of that opportunity. And Stanford makes them pay. And now the Cardinal with 5 set points. Yeah, when great all-around players at the collegiate level come to mind, you think about Stanford's Logan Tom, 4-time Olympian Jordan Larson, still on your team out of the University of Nebraska, and Catherine Plummer in that conversation. The differential is she's 6'6".
Yeah, and she, of course, there's years and years of work for her to get to a player of the level of those two in Logan Tom and Jordan Larson. But the potential is there.
Yeah, off to a very, very good start, and a magnificent beach player as well. She's going to have lots of choices to be made through her career, and all of them pretty good options. Set point again now for Stanford to send it to 5.
Well, if Stanford can close this out, do you think we're going to get a close one in the 5th, Paul?
It would be a treat. It would be a treat. Washington lost in 5 sets just last week at home to Oregon State. They also lost to Utah in 5 sets in conference. Catherine Plummer is able to put that ball away. Registers her 19th kill, but more work to do as a long night continues for last year's National Freshman of the Year. We're now tied at 2 sets apiece here at Maples Pavilion. Stanford and Washington have battled for so many Pac-12 titles over the last decade and a half or so, and battling once again here at Stanford.
Explorers. That's what we are every time we take pictures. At Looking Glass Photo, we offer all the latest gear and workshops that will have you discovering photography in ways you never thought possible. Your photographs make a lasting impression on the world. Let Looking Glass Photo make a lasting impression on you.
Mancini Sleep World wants you to enjoy huge savings and a great night's sleep during our tax-free mattress sale. Choose from the largest selection of top brand mattresses at the lowest possible price. Hurry in for this limited offer. Visit sleepworld.com.
Take advantage of exceptional lease and finance offers today.
This is the high-performing Acura RDX, designed for where you drive.
Lease the RDX for $309 a month for well-qualified customers. Visit your local Acura dealer today.
Redskins, Eagles, Monday, 8:15 Eastern on ESPN.
Don't miss the Decision Day action on ESPN and MLS Live.
Stanford and Washington going the distance here in Palo Alto, and Washington will be playing their 5th 5-set match in conference play alone. So Stanford ranked number 2, Washington at number 14. Back with USA national team head coach and 3-time Olympic gold medalist Karch Kiraly and Paul Sunderland. Interesting long night. So again, does that take the focus right to Catherine Plummer? Because now in the abbreviated 5th set, they're going to have to go to her maybe even with greater regularity, if not more often.
She's already taken 48 swings tonight. The most
trying to reduce her load.
On Washington's side, 30. They're distributing it more. So Stanford, I think, to have a great chance to win this 5th, they're going to have to pass better so they have more options, including Fitzmaurice hitting almost 450 and Alade hitting almost 650. So they can't rely just on Plummer, especially with Moretta Lutz having a little trouble. On the other side, Washington putting up they need to serve tough, get Stanford out of system, get them to have to set Plummer a lot and set up a good block in front of her.
There you see the results so far in 5-set matches, but most importantly for Washington, yes, Stanford went 5 sets in conference at Colorado, came out on top, but this is the 5th 5-set match. Keegan Cook won't mind. That's why he's going great early. 5 5-set matches in conference play already.
And you notice Washington is not starting in their traditional rotation 1 with Bailey Tanner in right back. They want to get out of that. They've had some real trouble, so they're in rotation 2, allowing DeHoe to hit behind. Ooh, not a good touch on that. Probably a result of that finger. Still, remember when you have a broken finger and you got to push it a long way. Much easier. I would, if I were her, I would have chosen to set close, not very far over my head behind.
Courtney Schwann, quick set to the outside, in system over the top of the block into the deep cross court corner. 15-point tiebreaker. Teams will change sides at 8, and they do have 2 team timeouts respectively.
And give Schwann a lot of credit. She's hitting far above her season average of 197. It's been a big part of Washington's success tonight.
Yeah, Courtney Schwann having a very nice night. We'll give you her numbers in just a moment. First set of the 5th, and stuffed on the outside. Plummer is rejected. Hazelwood along with DeHoe on the perimeter.
Yep, starts with a pass that they really couldn't set Adriana Fitzmaurice. If I were her, I'd run all the way to the sideline, hit what we call a slide. Now she's hitting the slide, and they can set that, and she's been having much more success.
What a dig down the line, but a double contact called against DeHoe. Mentioned Courtney Schwann, 10 kills, 31 swings, only 1 error, Karch. That is a wonderful night for number 4 in black for Washington.
A huge bright spot for them after fighting through such challenging injuries through the course of her Washington career.
Going the long way again to the outside. Saw Bailey Tanner having to go left with a pancake instead of that injured right digit. Schwann demanding the ball on the outside off the deflection, dug by Formico.
Outside.
Alade a little bit late. Jenna Gray having to hold on to that thing to wait for number 6 to get on her horse and get back to it.
And one of the challenges is Alade having a great season, but she can only hit off 2 feet. She would make Stanford's job so much easier if she could hit a slide off 1 foot behind the setter. Far easier to defend their block or their offense when Alade is not running behind the setter and spreading the defense out.
Ball served out of bounds. And the substitution coming on. Just a little bit of bookkeeping along the sideline. This has been the regular pattern for Washington throughout the course of the evening. They should have it down by now. Moretta Lutz also comes back on, replacing Formico.
It's starting to look like international volleyball. 5-minute substitutions. What's going on here? I thought they had it figured out.
No, don't say that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it drives me nuts.
I know. I've seen you on the sidelines a number of times.
There's the pass that Stanford needs. And what a block. up by Scambray.
And Hazelwood on the cross body.
And remember, we talked about Hazelwood. She's actually a little early there. She's still trying to make that transition, but that got her a one-on-one blocking situation, running that a little faster.
Washington on top by 1. Oh, that ball might have been out.
I think so.
Lutz, nice play out of the back row, slicing that ball off cross court.
Cutting a very thin slice. They bring Loretta Lutz back in as once her position is in left back, so she can take some backcourt swings. And now up to the front. Stanford's got their best blocking lineup. Jenna Gray wants to serve this tough, but serve it in, give her block a chance.
Oh, easiest crack-a-lack of the night for number 2, Catherine Plummer. 20 kills for Plummer now. Alade with 12, Moretta Lutz with 11, Fitzmaurice with 10. Jones misses that ball over the top, looking for a touch, none called, and no challenge coming. Three 3-0 run for Jenna Gray and Stanford. It has been a match of runs every single set, right 1 through 4, but you can least afford it in the 5th set tiebreaker to 15. Tight pass. Alade with a tap down. Ball was ruled right on top of the net. So 2 overpasses, 1 over dig to Catherine Plummer and this to Alade. And now Stanford extends their run on top 7-4, and Washington has to call a timeout. Back to finish this one up right after this.
Art has always been really important to my sister Melissa. I never thought I'd be going to college, but now it's happening. Now, with the help of the Promise, my sister and I are going to UC's. It'll be one of the proudest days when I watch her walk across the graduation stage.
Mancini Sleep World wants you to enjoy huge savings and a great night's sleep during our tax-free mattress sale. Choose from the largest selection of top brand mattresses at the lowest possible price. Hurry in for this limited offer. Visit sleepworld.com.
Don't miss the Decision Day action on ESPN and MLS Live.
Saturday big college football game with playoff implications coming out of the Big Ten Conference. Number 19 Michigan takes on Heisman hopeful Saquon Barkley and number 2 Penn State at Beaver Stadium. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on ABC, also on the ESPN app. And you were saying, Karch, during that timeout called by Washington, a really good serving run by Jenna Gray.
Yeah, those overpasses that turn into direct points, I essentially count that in my mind as an ace. So she's served an ace 2 out of the last 3 serves. That a very good pass by Washington.
Oh, beautiful play, and ripped through the block that time by Hazelwood. Much needed by Washington as Schwann will go back to serve. Hazelwood now in double figures. Excuse me, 8 out of 10. Courtney Schwann, 10 out of 34. 8 out of 10. Wow.
Oh, what an up.
Look at Moretta Lutz. Almost a little double quick that time. Remember, teams will change sides at 8.
Yep. Stanford had all 3 of its hitters on the left side. 2 quicks, and then Plummer coming around. And they love setting Lutz on that. She did that for 2 years of her career, hitting middle.
The 5th 5-set match so far for number 14 Washington in conference. It's the 3rd so far on the year for Stanford. Lost in Champaign, Illinois to now number 1 Penn State in 5 sets, and then beat Colorado in Boulder 3-2. Plummer back to serve. And just because in the back row doesn't mean she can take a breath. Gee, they set her an awful lot in the back court.
Nice up.
On target. And that's going to be a net violation called against Jenna Gray, trying to track down that dig by Hintz.
Yeah, Washington's smart. Anytime they get a good pass, they're trying to set their slow quick, their slick, and they're having lots of success with it.
Here's Shane McPherson doing a nice job at the libero. Good flat serve. Chrissy Jones is rejected. Alade once again.
Smart play by Lutz to not try to make something out of nothing. Kept the ball alive and gave her block a chance.
The absolutely superb play of Tame Alade just continues.
Ooh, not a good play by Plummer. That she could have put that in the middle of the court.
Out of system swing for Scambray, maybe out of bounds. Was there a touch at the net? Certainly Catherine Plummer thought so. But, Scambray will take the kill, and coming back on to serve. Remember Bailey Tanner, fractured right pinky, missed 4 matches, reconstructive surgery, can only play in the back row.
And DeHoog's back on at left front for Washington. Looked at if they get the ball up in transition to try and set her.
Gorgeous set that time on a tight pass by Jenna Gray, and then wrist away off the edge for Lutz.
We've seen her do that several times this match, really doing a good job of making something that's mediocre into something that's good.
Mentioned the family connection between Kate Formico and the assistant coach Taylor. There's another, Carrie Walsh Jennings, also a cousin. Pretty good volleyball group. Coming to Plummer in the backcourt, you bet.
Ooh, tight.
Back to Plummer again. Oh, she's blocked. Sanders diving into the cross court. "54 swings now for Catherine Plummer." If you're Kevin Hambley, do you maybe take a timeout here? You usually don't see it in volleyball, you know, like you do in basketball. A timeout just to take a rest, to take a breath. 80+ swings last week.
They got a mini one just asking the floor person to wipe up.
Well, somebody needs to go old school and untie their shoes. Washington a chance to get within 1. Fitzmaurice off the top of the block. Dig right on target, giving Fitzmaurice an opportunity as she registers her 12th kill.
Stanford's middle's having huge success. Both teams wanting to get the middle when they get the pass.
Coming outside to Schwann. To Plummer. Inside. Ball is done. Stand in, take another shot, covered by Hintz.
Wow, some heat coming cross court. But remember, most of the work is getting hit by the ball. Whether you're at the net, blocking, or in the backcourt defending.
Back and forth we go. It's been a streaky match all night long. It hadn't been that close in each of the preceding 4 sets, but maybe we'll get a gem here in the 5th. Stanford still leading 11-9. Plummer without much of an approach. DeHoog on the wrist away. Timeout called by Stanford, and Washington back within 1. This match is so important for Stanford, the only undefeated team in the Pac-12 conference, followed by number 12 Utah, USC right there as well at 6-2. Washington, UCLA, Colorado, Oregon, and Oregon State trying to keep their tournament hopes alive. Stanford wants to be a top 4 seed, but I'll tell you, for Washington, Keegan Cook has so many questions to figure out in his own mind, and this has just complicated things. you go 5 sets with Stanford on the road playing a 6-2, and he's got to decide so many things going down the stretch over the last 3 weeks.
This absolutely has to go into the calculation. For sure, they're playing the most successful team so far in the Pac-12 on their home court and having lots of success. 16
stuff blocks for Washington, 13 for Stanford. If you're just joining us, Stanford easily took the opening set. Washington came right back. None of the preceding 4 sets were close. The closest was Washington winning the third 25-21. Very streaky match. Handed a note that Stanford had 6 runs of 4 points or more throughout the course of the match. Stanford leading 11-10. Avi Neese on now, the sophomore, her first appearance in the match after a long wait. In now for Washington. DeHogue again, stuff block. It has been a block party for Stanford and Washington. Catherine Plummer looks just gassed to me, Karch.
And still puts up a solid block there. Yes, she does look tired. I mean, how would you not be taking about 55 swings here and coming off a viral infection, fighting off some illness?
And a 7 o'clock biology class tomorrow morning, from what I hear.
And a late start tonight with an 8 p.m. start.
Overpass. Yeah, I agree with you, Karch. That should go down as about 3/4 of an ace.
Yeah.
Tammy Alade, what a season she is having. Leading the conference in hitting efficiency, the 3rd best blocker. Everybody thought, what is going to happen with the graduation of Inky Ajanaku? Who could possibly fill in? Look, nobody can. But Alade's doing a pretty good impersonation for one of the best players over the last decade of college volleyball.
She's doing a great impersonation, considering you see how she keeps her forte is jumping off of 2 feet to attack. That's the one thing that she doesn't have that Inky Ajanaku does so well, and did it so well, and especially in her senior season, hitting off Jenna Gray, was the one-footed approach behind the setter at the other sidelines, spreading things out. But considering she doesn't have that, Alade doing a fabulous job this season.
14 of 19, hitting .632 in terms of efficiency. Also credited with 6 blocks. And now some separation here for Stanford, trying to stay perfect in the Pac-12. Yeah, this would be a devastating upset win for Washington with respect to Stanford. Washington currently ranked number 14 and well down in double digits as far as the RPI is concerned. You know, a loss tonight, that might knock Stanford right out of the possibility of a top 4 seed, but now they, again, thanks to Alade among others, have got some separation.
Well, if I were Washington, they haven't had a ton of success setting Sanders in the middle. I'd be thinking DeHogue behind the setter, overhead, the easiest set. Oh, but they don't get the pass for it. Already in trouble.
Ball dug tight to the net. Gray over the top. Jenna Gray has had a handful of kills, but no more important than that. And now 3 match points for the Stanford Cardinal. Washington has been so game, playing through injuries throughout the course of the season. Their 11th different starting lineup, and taking the number 2 Cardinal and defending national champions right to the wire. And a back row blocker is called, and Stanford will fight through the 5th set and stay perfect, Karch, in the Pac-12 conference and improve to 9-0. They've won their 11th in a row and are 16-2.
Well, I think if you're Washington, you've got to be encouraged that you're getting your team to better health, pushing Stanford to the limit on its own court. And Stanford's still got some issues to work out, depending on Plummer too much on offense.
Washington far from 100%. Bailey Tanner only able to play the back row, and I agree with you. I think this should give the Washington Huskies a lot of confidence going on the road and pushing the Stanford Cardinal right to the limit. Catherine Plummer, 20 kills on 58 swings. Tammy Alade was spectacular, 14 of 19. What a good contest, back and forth, a streaky match indeed. And the coaches, the collar getting a little tight, no question about it, but Stanford comes out on top. Thanks for joining us. You've been watching the Pac-12 on ESPN. From our partner, Karch Kirai, I'm Carl Sunderland. We will catch you with more volleyball coming your way on ESPN.
On a beautiful Houston night,